meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law Number 14 of 2022, adopted on May 24th, 2022. Our next meeting and those following will be held in person here at Town Hall and will also continue to allow for remote participation. So we ask you to continually check the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. With that, I'd ask you to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you who are here with us tonight in person, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another in the boardroom as it interferes with our recording equipment. Tonight we have board member Helen Burgess, who will be participating remotely via Zoom. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure that the documents identify the ZBA application name and tax map number. The application name should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated, at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a date to be announced after the hearing. Those comments can be addressed to the members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell. With that, I'd ask for a motion that we to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. And now on to adjournments.
All right, on the decision calendar, the following decisions will be held over till our May 4th meeting. This is the Andrea Robart 2015 Family Irrevocable Trust. Peter Castro and Joanne Damaris, Nicholas Howe and Nicola Welsh, 103 Company LLC, Production Holdings LLC, and Lee Skolnick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, and then Dilla Patel and Dylan will be held over to our July 20th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then I'll move to reopen Milk Pail LLC to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Who seconded? Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Reopened.
With that being done, I'll make a motion to close it with a determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, then we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. Item 1 on the agenda and the new applications is 1566 Noyak LLC in North Sea Suffolk County Tax Map 900-33-1-10.1. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-82, lot width to allow the 4 flagpole driveways of a proposed 4-lot subdivision to each have a width of 12.5 feet respectively, where 20 feet is required and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. Susan?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Liz Vale with Greenberg Traurig. We're located at 2317 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. And I'm here tonight with Joe Hardy of the Rayner Group. I don't know if Joe's not presenting, but you might want to swear him in.
No problem. So you can just raise your right hand if you can, and state your name and address for the record, please.
Joe Lombardi, with the Rayner Group, on 860 Montauk Highway in Watermill.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you.
So we're here tonight on behalf of 1566 Noyak LLC. The property is located at 1566 Noyak Road. We're located in the R40 zoning district, and the property is 234,324 square feet, or 5.379 acres, and we're proposing a 4-lot subdivision before the planning board. If you look at Exhibit B, the proposed lots are approximately 59 and 60,000 square foot lots, where 40,000 square feet is required. Therefore, they more than meet the lot area requirements in the district. And the neighborhood is entirely made up of residential parcels, and the surrounding lots are all approximately 1-acre lots. So the proposed lots are very much in keeping with the neighborhood's community character. But we're here tonight actually seeking relief for the access, as you stated, from Town Code Section 330-82 to allow 4 flags to be 12.5 feet where 20 feet is required, and to create an 18-foot wide common driveway. The property does have actually a designated 50-foot right-of-way off of Noyak Road, but the planning board prefers the creation of an 18-foot common flag driveway instead of a 24-foot wide road with a cul-de-sac at the end of the road. The planning board noted in its pre-application report that the creation of the road would actually cause the neighboring lots to become corner lots, and they'd have to have 2 front yards, and then they'd create nonconformities on those neighboring lots as a result of creating an actual road. Additionally, Joe pointed out to me tonight that if we created the road with a cul-de-sac, we'd actually have about 50% more paved area than what we're proposing with the 18-foot common driveway. So, if you look at Exhibit C, the aerial of the property, you can see that the community character of the area, along with the neighboring lots, are accessed by common driveways next to the property to the east. There's actually 4 properties accessed by a common driveway at 1646, 1650, 1658, and 1638 Noyak Road. And then also immediately next door to the west, there's a property at 1520 Noyak Road, which is accessed by a flag driveway. So I handed in a statement of support that goes through the 5-part test and shows how the benefit to the property owner and applicant far outweighs any detriment to the community. And I also have precedent-setting decisions in there in exhibits, let's see, Exhibit D and Exhibit E. So Exhibit E has 6 prior ZBA decisions which grants similar relief from Town Code Section 330-82 for all flag lots. And then Exhibit D has several decisions where you've actually granted 0 frontage for either landlocked properties or properties with easements. And that's what we have before you this evening.
All right, so this application is basically driven by the planning board's wishes in
Their-
terms of what they
their
want to see.
preference,
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is significant to me, that they think that this would be a better way for these lots to be configured.
Yeah.
So the variance relief is related to that. We'll see if there is anybody amongst the people in the vicinity that have concerns about it, but you know, I understand what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make it easier for
Right.
this development to be completed under the circumstances, and it happens to, as it turns out, require some variance relief.
It does allow for more width. What was the width for each side? If we did the road, we would have only allow 14 feet on each side?
With the road, there'd be 11 feet on each side, and with the common driveway, there's 16 feet.
So that's benefits the neighbors too.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay. And I can't see how there could be a negative impact of this, but I'll listen to what people have to say.
Okay, thank you.
What is the nature of the vegetation that's planned?
For the buffer area?
Yeah.
The 20-foot wide buffer for the planning board? Usually it's just a non-fertilization buffer area with a covenant, and it requires natural vegetation, right, Joe?
Yeah, quite a
Anything in
bit.
particular at this point?
No, I think
Okay.
that'll be gone over with the planning board as we
Right.
go through. Part of the property had been previously disturbed for a landscaping business use.
This is
That
an old
goes-
area.
That
Let's
goes,
see.
back to the 70s.
Oh, wow.
It was Frankenbach.
Yeah.
But there are some wooded
Do
areas.
you want to, if you could hand that to Katie,
Okay.
and she'll stamp it and send it over?
There are some wooded areas, and those, areas would remain wooded.
Can you just explain something to me? So, the frontage is 37.5 feet, so that's like, it goes like this, right?
For lot one, right?
Or,
Isn't that right, Joe?
no,
just
it's for
lot
the
one.
whole thing. It's,
There's actually, the frontage is actually 75 feet.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a 50-foot wide right-of-way, but then there's a radius curve
Right,
that meets
Okay.
Noyak Road, and it's only on one side of the property. So that's why it's 75. So, but the width of the actual right-of-way is 50 feet, and each of the four lots will have, well, three of the four lots will have 12 and a half feet, and one lot will have a little bit more. That's the one that has 37.5, because that's where the radius is.
Okay, so, all right, so on the survey that we have, we've got two darkened areas that show 12.5, right? And then there's a light one here. See, what I'm getting confused about is, all right, here's 12.5, 12.5, 12.5, and what's this looks like buffer zones.
Well, actually, the
So in other
shaded
words,
area
Yeah, go
is the
ahead.
pavement
Okay.
for the,
So what you're
The
saying
common
is,
driveway
driveway.
that's gonna be built.
And that's
Okay, yeah.
18
so what you're
feet.
saying is
18
that.
feet wide.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if you add these up, then you do the common area in the middle is 18 feet.
Right.
And then you've got the buffers. Okay, now I got it. Got it now.
But is that fourth flag 12 and a half feet, or is it something else?
It's 12 and a half, right?
He said it's a little bit more because of the.
Well, there's a little jog.
yeah,
Right, so,
because of
yeah,
the,
it's,
So I just want, but I mean, I don't want to, we don't want the board to grant a road frontage of 12 and a half feet
Well,
if it's
no,
more
it's
than
much-
12 and a half.
It's,
but the actual width of the
the
flagpole.
flag is proposed, it's gonna, we're asking for
It's
relief.
12
It's gonna
12 and a
be
half.
12.5.
Oh, got it.
See?
Yes,
Okay.
because the flag is supposed to be, got it, flag's supposed to be 20. It's not just road
Correct.
frontage, it's the flag.
Right, right. So you've got four, essentially, 12.5s.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And we need 20 for
And
each of
you
them.
need 20, and so what we're doing is a common driveway of 18, and you add it all together. Okay.
Right.
And then you've got the buffers, using the two sides as the buffer. Okay.
Right. Instead of the roadway, which would be 24 feet requirement with a cul-de-sac.
Okay.
And this is what planning suggested, obviously, right?
Yes,
Anthony,
this is what
wanted to
planning
ask if you had any
preferred.
comments on this?
No, I mean, this was the planning's wisdom there, my direction.
no doubt.
I didn't, we just didn't want to create an issue for the adjacent property owners. That's
Yeah.
basically
Right.
it. So, and a full road with a cul-de-sac for 4 lots is excessive. So we'd rather just do a common driveway, and
Right.
it makes everybody else happy on either side.
Agreed.
We have to worry about the fire department.
Okay.
Planning board will do all those referrals when they do the
Yep.
subdivision.
Any other
You
questions?
guys will take care of the fire department, fire
We will
rescue?
do all the referrals, we'll establish all the buffers, yep.
Very good.
Okay. All right. Wanted to ask if there's anyone from the public who would like to hear this evening in connection with this application. Was the application of 1566 Noyak LLC for property located at 1566 Noyak Road in North Sea. Is there anyone waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 1566 Noyak Road in North Sea?
I see no hands.
Okay. If not, Susan, it's yours.
We do have to do a secra, we have to do a secra coordination on this.
Well,
Oh, Anthony?
so, it's classified as an unlisted action here. What I'll recommend, since the planning board already looked at this and gave the directive what to do, I would just recommend doing an uncoordinated review, and I'll have the secret ready.
Oh, an uncoordinated review?
Uncoordinated
Okay.
review in this case, and I'll have the zoning board, the lead agency, and I'll do the secret for
Okay, so Liz, you just give Anthony an
We gave
EAF?
him one today
Yeah,
already.
took care of that, so I'll have it all ready for whenever you're ready to go.
So in other words, if we went with the written decisions, keeping it open for written decisions on May 5th?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
With a decision on May 18th?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you, board
That's
members.
Good enough date?
Second. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly. Mr. Leonard. Aye. Ms. Burtis.
Aye.
Ms. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
So much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Item 2 on the agenda is Samir and Kelly Bhopal, 51 White Oak Lane in Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-129-1-2.32. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed swimming pool. 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimension Regulations for an accessory distance from side lot line from 30 feet to 20 feet. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required minimum side yard for the principal building on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction, that's for John.
Good evening.
Good evening, Richard S. Fernan, 320 Hampton Road, Southampton, for the applicant. My client is here. I don't believe he'll need to speak, but if you want to swear him in just in case
Sure.
you have a question for him, I'll be happy to answer.
Why not? If you can just raise your right hand, you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Samir Bopley, 51 White Oak Lane, Southampton, New York, 11967.
And do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
I have one submission to make. Part of our application, I enclosed the Wetlands Conservation Board permit. It was valid at the time I submitted it. It's on its face expired, except we had it extended.
Okay.
And so I'm going to hand up
You can give that to our attorney.
the extension showing that it's
Yeah.
valid and in place.
Okay.
This is, I hope, a reasonably simple application. Back in 2002, Keith, were you on the board back with?
He was.
Peg Caraver was the chair?
So was I.
Okay, so you guys may remember this. Darby came in here and got a variance, obtained a variance for a swimming pool from 30 feet to 22.5 feet. Sounds good, right? So why not, runs with the land, except that the Conservation Board permit says we must follow the survey that was submitted and approved, which means we need 20 feet instead of 22.5 feet. So we're really at the mercy of the Conservation Board. They've approved it. There's no neighbors that are affected by this. In fact, the neighbor next door to Mr. Bhopal, his pool has a pool, and it's even closer to the property line than this would be. The property is well screened. It's a corner lot, so it's really dictated by the fact it's a corner lot. We have wetlands, and the Conservation Board has told us where we have to put it. So I don't want to belabor anything else unless you have any questions. I think that's really all I need to say.
Just if you've heard from, I don't know if you heard from any of the neighbors?
The only one I spoke to was at the golf club Saturday, Bob Iovino, is a dentist. I think his son owns one of the LLCs, might be 84 White Oak. And he told me they didn't have any problem with it. But Sam, you didn't hear from any neighbors, did you?
Is that the neighbor right next door that will
This one
be
right
adjacent to the pool?
No, so.
This one,
yeah,
have you
so
heard from
we're-
that neighbor?
I haven't, but I told him put in pool on a property, and he has no issues as well.
here? It looks well screened, like you said.
I beg your pardon?
It looks well
It
screened,
is,
yeah.
it is. I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to go and inspect the property, but it's, I was there with Sam when he posted the property, when I brought him the poster. It's pretty well screened back there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just want to mention as well, relief for a pool in a side yard, or sometimes we have them in the front yard. Often we get these when, there are limitations on the property, such as, multiple front yards or wetlands, and we have wetlands here. So I don't know that there would be a conforming location for a pool on this lot. I can't imagine that there would be, looking at it. I mean, basically, three-quarter, it looks like at least half of the lot is.
Yeah, I think this is about the only spot that can go.
Yeah.
Wetlands.
Yeah, because you have
yeah.
a pretty large buffer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And it's also an easement.
right.
You've got a flag easement there, so
Yeah.
it's an additional protection.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
and it's a modest-sized pool in the scheme of things. I mean, it's 16 by
40.
40, so
Yeah.
it's, just to me, pretty modest size. Okay. Any other questions, members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard this evening who's in the boardroom in connection with this application, which is the application of Bhopal, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, for property located at 51 White Oak Lane in Tuckahoe? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for 51 White Oak Lane in Tuckahoe?
No hands.
No hands, okay. If not, John, it's yours.
Okay, I would hold it, I would close the public hearing on this application, have written submissions issued by May 5th with a decision on May 18th.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Daly. Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, guys.
John, you don't need anything more from us, right?
No.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank
All right,
you.
you
Thank
too.
you.
Sir.
That's all right.
Item 3 on the agenda. Dennis P. Schmidt, 51 Beach Plum Road, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-4-2.9. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed 3-story, 1-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot. Relief from C-zone regulations, a principal rear yard setback from 50 feet to 20 feet. 330-11, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations to allow the proposed dwelling to be 3 stories where a maximum of 2 stories is permitted. And 330-84D, Pyramid Law for a proposed encroachment, the amount of 1,869.5 cubic feet, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction. It's for Adam.
Good evening. How are you? Just want to need to swear you in. If you can just state, again, swear you both in at the same time. Just state your names and addresses for the record, please.
Susanna Herman, N Consultants, 1319 North Sea Road, Southampton.
Okay. That's it.
Dennis Schmidt, 524 Millstone Road, Watermill.
And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You can tell us about the application.
Okay. This property is located at 51 Beach Plum Road. It's undersized in an R40 zoning district at 20,291 square feet. And here's our architect right now.
Right on time.
I was talking kind of slow. So you need to be sworn in.
Yep. Okay. You can state your name and address.
Mel Gonzalez, 5 Pheasant Way, Blue Point, New York, 11715.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
What's your first name?
Pardon?
First name.
Mel.
Emil, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
We're happy to see you.
Rushed here.
So I was just saying, it's an undersized lot. The square footage is 20,291 in an R40 zoning district. It's a corner lot with 2 front streets, Locust Lane and Beach Plum Road, which is a paper road in this portion of Beach Plum Road. And it has wetlands in 2 directions, including a pond to the north of the property, and then a wetland that's more of a swamp without a lot of standing water that's actually on the property itself along the eastern portion of the property. In addition, there is a very shallow depth to groundwater at just over 3 feet depth of ground before you get to the groundwater. So we're constrained in every single direction, from size, 2 front yards, 2 wetlands, and we can't go down. So we are requesting 3 forms of zoning relief on this constrained lot. The first is the rear yard setback, which would be to the western property line. We're proposing a 20-foot setback where 30 feet is required. There was a previous zoning approval in 2006 for basically the same project. The footprint is slightly different, the house design is different, but it's the same relief basically that we're requesting.
Yeah, including relief for three stories.
Correct.
So I was a little bit confused about it being, asked, that relief which was previously granted being requested. Is that because it's a slightly different project that you're asking for that relief again?
Exactly, we're here again, the house is slightly different footprint.
Yeah. But
you've approved that
We
previously.
previously approved a three-story dwelling on
Right.
this, on this
You
lot.
also previously approved the 20-foot setback to the rear property line. At the previous hearing or the previous determination, you granted C zoning because it's single and separate back to the subdivision.
Herb used to like to do that
And
sometimes.
because Herb was here, yes.
I'm not a fan, but that's one thing that Herb used to do, of that in particular. He would have blanket, like, whatever the prior zoning was, he would sometimes grant, well, the board would, at his suggestion, grant relief for the zoning that had been in place, 30 years ago, or whatever the case might be.
Is that the C zoning that you're
The
talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that it was easier for the owner or future owner to develop the lot without being constrained by what often was more difficult zoning to go with. But on the other hand, my philosophy of it was, and he and I would talk about it sometimes, I'd rather do a piecemeal than give blanket. But sometimes it did make sense.
If it's single and
Sometimes it did.
separate, you do have, relief.
Well, that's it.
Right, and we
Yeah,
also
yeah.
have relief from section 33083K because we require a wetland permit.
Ah.
So
Right.
C zoning allows 50-foot
50,
rear
right.
yard.
Yeah.
You divide that in half,
Yeah.
but not less than 30. So we could do a 30-foot setback, but we're proposing 20, as previously approved by this board in 2006.
Right.
The third variance is for pyramid. We're asking for slightly more pyramid relief than the previous. That's why our architect Mel is here to describe the reasons behind the current design, which I think is a much more attractive design than previously approved. The 3 stories is previously granted by this board. I'll also point out that we cannot have a basement here because of the 3 feet to groundwater. The lower level would be no living space. It's a garage, storage,
And that's what I
mechanical.
wanted to know. That's
Yeah.
really what I
That's
wanted to know.
Willing to make that a condition?
Yeah.
Yes, that
Yes,
was part
yeah.
of the previous approval.
Right,
That is a
right.
condition of this
Okay. Yep.
approval
Okay.
as well.
Okay, very
Can I
good.
ask a question? I saw in here that there was a previous structure.
Yes, it's
Okay.
here, it's on the survey.
That's been demolished?
Not yet, it's still
Okay.
there.
That's
If
the
you-
one that I'm seeing in the pictures.
Yeah, it's hard to get a good picture
Okay.
because it's fairly overgrown back there.
Yes.
But that is a masonry structure.
This
It-
thing here? Is this it here?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Okay.
So it's
Right.
about.
Oh, so
Property line.
Is that what that is in this,
Yes.
what we have? I couldn't tell, I was like, is that
Yes.
light? I
No,
couldn't
that's-
tell what that was.
So if you look at
Okay. Okay, it's,
Yeah, I
the
guess.
last,
it looks like it's over the line.
it's on the, it's
And that's coming up.
0.1 feet
0.1 feet,
is the
okay.
current setback. So we're going from 0.1 feet from the property line to 20 feet. So
Which is an improvement.
it's a big improvement. We're also getting farther away from the pond. As I mentioned, there's 2 wetlands.
Right.
The pond that's located to the north of the property is a DEC regulated wetland. It's big, it's pretty, it's an important wetland. The wetland that's on the corner of the property is not, I mean, all wetlands are important, but it's not one that the community would say, wow, that's a beautiful pond. It's an overgrown swamp area. But it has value, and that's why the Conservation Board required that we increase the amount of buffer and also agree to do all revegetation on the property. All landscaping will be native vegetation. So over the septic system, the areas surrounding the house, between the non-disturbance buffer and the structure, will be all native plantings. They're keeping a lot of the trees. There's mature trees that are right around that existing structure. Those are going to remain. Another improvement over the previous approval from 2006 is the sanitary system. The previous sanitary system required retaining walls and fill to be brought in, and it was a conventional system. This is a IA denitrification sanitary system with a shallow pressurized drain field, which further reduces nitrogen in the effluent, and will also not require fill. So we're not raising up the grade, we're not building big walls right up to the property line. There's also drainage structures as part of this approval as well. So all in all, it's even better environmentally than the previously approved project. It's basically the same. The footprint is only 1,000 square feet. The existing masonry structure is just under 1,000 square feet, 900. It's about the same, 979. Our lot coverage is only 4.9%.
20 is allowable, right?
Yeah, where 20 is allowable,
Yeah.
so.
But
And-
impossible.
Yes.
Literally impossible.
Impossible on this property, and
Right.
we cannot conform
Oh, yeah.
to zoning on this property.
Yeah.
We cannot meet the setbacks, and
Right.
the Conservation Board would not allow us to go closer to the wetland on the subject property.
Yeah.
I'd also like to point out that the distance of the proposed structure to the neighboring dwellings is pretty substantial. I did a Google mapping of it, and to the neighbor on the northwest, it's approximately 140 feet, okay? And it's, as you can see from the aerial, it's, naturally screened, so that's the beauty of it. Also, to the southwest, there's 145 feet. And to the immediate south, which is right here, this is 70 feet, approximately 70 feet, but across the property here is densely wooded, all right? And as far as the other structures to the east and to the north, you really can't see anything, because that's so wooded. That's the wetlands, and it's completely wooded. That's number 54. Number 52 is up on the east side, and that's a deep driveway, also densely wooded. So there's a lot of natural screening, and in addition to that, I believe the homeowners are going to do some additional screening that was recommended.
Who actually owns the piece with the pond on it? I don't know if the town purchased it or...
It is Town of Southampton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the
Yeah.
survey as an
Yeah.
open space.
Yeah.
And that's a nice pond, because, Beach Plum is a paper road, there's a little path that goes up there, and that will not be disturbed.
Fishing?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure
And no,
they do.
there's not any pool applications this time?
I don't see.
Yeah.
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 No.
Yeah. Or at the same time. Do you need wetlands,
Permit?
conservation board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you applied for it?
Yes, and they have granted the permit, they haven't released it yet, they just, Marty Shea approved the revegetation plan last week. So we will be getting that, that was the last thing that they needed,
Okay.
yeah, that was, an accomplishment.
Yeah. And my only other question was, between 2006, when we granted the prior variance, and now, was there a particular reason why the applicant didn't build then, but years ago?
I wasn't sure what I was going to do with, and what I was gonna do.
Okay.
I live like a mile and a half from there, and now my
Right.
house is too big, and I wanna build a smaller house.
Okay. No, and you didn't have to, build right away, it runs with the land, the variance, but I just,
Well, they said it was only for 3 years. They told me at the time I had 3 years. And,
Probably because of the other approval.
wetland,
yeah,
yeah,
and so, believe me, I thought about it to the last day, but I was like, all right, I was gonna hang on to it either way, and,
Yeah.
I thought it was a good investment.
Usually people want to build bigger houses.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
good.
And in certain respects, this is a better application than the prior one, because we
Oh,
have the
absolutely.
enhanced
Absolutely.
environmental benefits.
Yes, and I don't know if you
Yeah.
get to see the house that Mel designed. It's unbelievable. It's a beautiful house. It's gonna look nice
Yeah.
in the neighborhood there, and that it'll fit in nice.
Okay.
I do think it's within the character of the neighborhood as far as the setback relief. A lot of the homes are 30, 40 feet from the property lines.
Yeah.
Because they were built according to C zoning where they had lesser setbacks. The pyramid relief is not excessive. It's 1,869.5 cubic feet. The previous approval was for 1,313.
Right, which is an additional 556.5 cubic feet.
Yeah, I mean,
Above.
right, and the pyramid relief, total pyramid relief, 1869, you know, and point, I mean,
Point five.
five, is modest relief in the scheme of what we see and what we grant in terms of pyramid relief, but also, this is a constrained property
Right.
with wetlands that, if the wetlands force the applicant
Right.
to put the structure where it's protecting the wetlands as much as possible, which often means that the pyramid relief or other relief is needed in order to serve that purpose, so.
And you're maintaining a height of 32 feet.
Below 32, yes.
Yeah.
To your point, exactly, if we were
Right.
permitted to move the structure forward
Yeah.
to the east, we would certainly comply with the pyramid.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And as far as the height, we're maintaining under the 32 feet.
And the ceiling height for the 2 floors is 9 feet.
9 feet on the first
And then-
floor,
And then the lower floor is 7 something.
7.6.
Right.
Okay.
Which is reasonable.
Okay. Have you heard from any of the neighbors?
I have not.
Okay.
One is here.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Is he a friend?
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Well, he
Okay.
actually, he wanted to buy it for his son.
All right, so I.
No motivation there.
All right, okay, so I wanted to ask if there's anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with this application, the application of Schmidt for property located at 51 Beach Plum Road in Noyak? Okay, yes, and if you want to, you can go to the podium. So I just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
No, it's just Michael Pintaro,
Yeah.
31 Beach Plum Road, Sag Harbor, New York.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
I
truth?
do.
Okay,
Pintauro.
okay. And do you live adjacent to this?
Yes, I
parcel?
do.
Okay.
So thank you for letting me come and speak. But, so I think the introduction to the property says a lot about why this is a particularly bad application to move forward with. I think there's a lot of provisions that need to be met, and, you know, as gracious as they are, is trying to meet them. I think it sets a bad precedent as far as what we are allowing to be built out here if we proceed with anything like this, because, you know, given the nature of this area, it's, you know, the age of this area, and the fact that so many of these properties were bigger estates that were then subdivided hastily, rather lazily. This is just a 1/16 of an acre that's abutting a pond in a wetlands. And, you know, there's just some properties that shouldn't be built on. It's as simple as that. You know, they're just not meant for homes. And, you know, that's just the nature of the area sometimes, you know.
So you'd like the lot sterilized then?
I think, you know, it was up for CPF consideration by Mary
Okay.
Wilson,
Okay.
I think 2 years ago.
Okay.
I think they did make an offer on it, as far as,
Mhm.
from what I've heard from Douglas Elliman.
Mhm.
I think that offer was denied. I think this is a critical
I sold him a
property.
different piece.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one
I
it is
sold
exactly.
CPF a different piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Allow him to
Yeah.
give his
But,
comments.
but it, you know, this sits at the headwaters of a vast wetlands ecosystem that abuts a county park, you know, Clam Island County Park. Growing up in that neighborhood, there's all sorts of, you know, eastern tiger salamanders, there's snapping turtles, there's diamondback terrapins, there's species of frogs that live in that pond. You know, some of these animals are, you know, protected species by the state of New York. And, you know, again, like as gracious as they are about, you know, trying to make this building work, it just doesn't seem rational to, you know, to move forward with it, I think. But beyond that, this is a neighborhood that, with some old buildings, some old homes, much of it ranch, you know, much of it, you know, in the bungalow style, that still retains its nature. And so I just want to, you know, given some of the backstory of the property, just wanted to come and fill you in a little bit more of some of the information about that property. And I think, you know, its value as open land, as it abuts already open land that is town of Southampton land. I think it has more value to the community and to the greater ecosystem of Noyak. So,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you for your comments. Okay. Looks like there might be somebody else on Zoom. Well, first of all, I want to ask, is there anyone else in the audience who would like to be heard in connection with this application, again, for 51 Beach Plum Road in Noyak? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application?
Yes, I'm Paul.
Yes. Okay, we can see you.
There we go. Sorry, everyone. I had that on mute.
Okay, that's all right. And I just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney.
I'm not an attorney.
Okay, so if you can just state your name and address, please, for the record.
Paul Maida, and, well, my home address is 462 West 58th Street, apartment 9F, New York, New York, 30019, but I'm the property owner of 15 Treadwell, directly across.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. If you can tell us your comments.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily opposed to a structure being built. I guess my biggest issue and concern relates to the pyramid zoning, I guess, relief. A 3-story building in the neighborhood, I don't know that there are any others, and I do not believe there are any others. When we bought the property back in 2020, at the end of 2020, that area, it had that house that was, sort of decapitated or falling down at this point. And the other side is wetlands that's undisturbed. And, one of the appealing things was that, if a property were to be built in that area, we would not be able to see it because, there are trees and, it's going to be 2 stories because that's what's required. And visually, it wouldn't impact our property at all. So, at the very least, I guess I would say that I have concerns just because, I don't want to see a massive roof sticking out, or, I'm concerned, there could be a widowmaker, at the very top that, they can come out, see on our property. The hot tub is actually going to be located, it looks like 10 feet from the edge of our property. So I guess, yes, I do oppose, a 3-story, building being built there. And I guess I would question, I understand that area is small and the footprint isn't very big where you could actually build a house. But I still don't understand why a 3-story house would be needed.
Okay.
Do you need a garage, underneath, I guess, Is there, why couldn't it just be a 2-story structure with a separate garage or something like that? Or no garage? But, I do echo the gentleman's comments before, that is a very, beautiful wetland area, and it would be a shame to disturb it. I'm sure there's gonna be environmental impacts, along with, just impacts to the neighborhood in general, in the sense that there are no houses that big. There are no 3-story houses in this area. And, a lot of people probably bought in this area with the same sort of understanding of what the zoning rules were, and, thought that, hey, I'm not gonna have any massively tall structures built there. So, yeah, I just wanted to give my 2 cents, and that's where we're at.
Sure.
Sir, which house on Treadwell is yours?
It's 15 Treadwell, it's
Do you
lots.
share a lot line?
Yeah, I have it here, it's, lots, what lot? 18.
Okay.
As I understand it, though, you're not exceeding the height restrictions of 32 feet, so you're under 32 feet, and the reason for the pyramid relief is because you are required by the Conservation Board to crowd it into a corner, so to speak.
That's correct, and if I could just
Yep.
very quickly.
Okay, I just want to make sure before you do that. Is there anything else you wanted to add to your comments? No? Okay, very good.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you for your comments, appreciate it.
Okay, just a couple of corrections to the testimony. The previous speaker said that it was a 1/16 of an acre. This is a half-acre parcel, 20,000 plus square feet. The hot tub is not 10 feet from the property line. It's over 20, I think it's about 24 feet from the property line. We cannot have a separate garage because there just isn't space for it. Putting the garage underneath the house is the most efficient use of space on this property that's so constrained. The footprint is only 1,000 square feet, so it's the same, more or less, footprint as the existing structure, just farther from the property line of Lot 18. So instead of being 0.1 feet from that property line with a dilapidated structure, it'll be a new structure that'll be 20 feet from the property line. So we're getting farther away and planting that entire area with vegetation.
I would also point out that where you're planning to put the hot tub is a significant different distance from the house, or from the homeowner that was just
Right.
talking.
Yep,
And
and
the-
it looks like we're gonna have
Distance.
another speaker, but if you wanna,
I was just gonna say that calling this house big is not appropriate, in my opinion. It's a very modest-sized house with a 1,000 square foot footprint.
Okay.
And 32, less than 32-foot height.
okay, I just wanna go to, looks like another speaker. If you're, if you'd like to be heard, just, if you can, I need to swear you in, so if you can just state your name and address for the record, please. We can see you, but we can see you, but we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Lynette Pintara.
Okay, and your address?
My address is 31 Beach Plum Road. I'm
Okay,
the homeowner.
okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
And how do I spell her first name?
If you can spell your first name for us, please?
It's Lynnette.
Okay, her last name is Sarah?
Tara.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, and if you can give us your comments.
I lived in this house since 1986. And I have seen the community change and the road, the Treadwell Road go in. And, I've seen the houses change around. For the most part, that piece of land, that structure that's on there now is an old, barn that was used for the community, as a place to keep their boats. Okay, it was part of the, the community, club. And, it was just a place to keep their boats. It wasn't anything else. And it was done years and years ago, before I lived here. So there was nothing around that area. Treadwell Lane was all woods. All of that area was woods. From that pond on, it continues on through to the land now that's open to the public, that is Clam Island. It is a very low piece of land, but all they're saying, all the concessions they're trying to make to put a little house on it, just goes to show that the land is really not appropriate for a house. It is a very low-lying piece of land. All the water from Beach Plum runs down into that, because I'm up on a hill a bit, and that goes down low. It floods when there's a heavy rain. If you were to put the house would have to be on pilings, thus the 3 stories. Your your garage would flood, most likely, unless you start putting in walls. You're 3 feet from the water table, as you said. That means all kinds of things are running through. My water is well water, okay? It would be connected to that. You're talking about safety of all the houses around the area by putting more structures up. I don't see it as a viable place for a home. That's why you're making so many concessions in order to get a house there. Okay, you're looking for so many variants because it is not really a buildable lot. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, all right, appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application?
No other hands.
No other hands, okay. Susanna?
Okay, pilings are not required here. It's not in a flood zone. I'm sure there's runoff that ends up in the wetland on this property, which is why it's protected, and that's where the water would go. Where the house is being constructed is slightly higher than that. And that's why all this native vegetation is being left and additional vegetation is being added. We meet all the separations to any wells that could be nearby. The health department has reviewed that. There are no wells that would be impacted. Also, there is town water available. And our records show that I think everyone in the surrounding this property within 150 feet, which would be the separation distance, is connected to public water. So there would not be any wells impacted by this.
Yeah.
And if that property is
scaled down to
higher-
what was previously approved, right?
What?
This is scaled down to what was previously approved?
Yes, this is the same footprint, the same size, the
It's
only
very
difference.
similar.
It's,
Yeah.
it's the same location, the only difference is the amount of pyramid that is.
Okay.
And
Right,
again,
right.
we have wetland approval from
Yeah, yeah.
New York State DEC and from Town of Southampton Conservation Board.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
an approved subdivision
Right.
and a buildable,
Yeah,
single
yeah.
and separate buildable lot.
And I just want to mention for the neighbors who are talking about that a lot, shouldn't be built upon. Well, the CPF program and preserving the parcel is a voluntary program. It is not something that is forced upon a property owner. A property owner is entitled to request relief from this board. The property owner also could sell the property to the town if there was an agreement on that, but it is voluntary. It is not something that is mandatory. So anyway, for what it's worth, I just want to mention that. So.
Well, I would also note that we're not here to decide whether or not a lot should be built on
Yeah.
in the first place.
That's not for us.
Yeah, yeah.
I have someone else that wants to speak.
You have someone else. Okay, okay.
Great.
All right.
Again,
Great. You sure, Charlie?
Yeah,
I can only go as fast as he can.
He's up there, yeah.
I think, isn't that the same person who spoke already?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I want to make just one correction. So we are right next to the 15 Treadwell, and we are on well water. So I just wanted to make that correction. When it was said that the surrounding properties are all on public water, we actually are on well water,
Okay.
15 Treadwell.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, appreciate you letting us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay. Anthony, do you have any comments on this one?
No, just wanted to make sure that the appropriate agencies, the DEC and the Conservation Board have looked at this. That's it.
Right, okay, all right. Okay, so I would move, well, Council, are we waiting on anything in terms of submissions?
Just to refer a response.
Okay. Okay, very good. All right, so I will move that we close the application of Schmidt this evening, except for written submissions. The deadline for written submissions will be end of business on, I believe the date is May 5th. And our decision, we will have a decision at our May 18th meeting.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Tuttle.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for being here. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 on the agenda. Edwards 4 LLC, 2071 Deerfield Road, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-34-1-17. Applicant requests for relief from Town Code 330-82, lot width, to allow a road frontage of 0 feet, where a minimum of 40 feet is required on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction. Can you pass that to Mike?
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. Doug Sinsky, 33 Flying Point Road, Southampton, New York, for the applicant. Edwards 4 LLC.
Okay.
As you can see from the application, it's an area variance. This is a pre-existing, non-conforming lot, which has been held in single and separate ownership, and has been denied a building permit because it lacks the 40-foot road frontage. But access to this lot, I believe, was provided through the planning board resolution. And the actual easements required to be filed, which have been filed, against this lot and the neighboring
Right.
lots.
Looks like way back when it was somehow missed that variance relief was necessary,
I think that's the issue, yes.
Basically, the planning board acted, but the ZBA did not.
Correct.
So, yeah, okay. All right, I'll let you continue, I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's really the nature of the application. You can see from, well, it starts with, if you look at the planning board resolution, it was a very big parcel of land that has been subdivided into 3 lots. And this is the 4th lot, lot 17, that we're talking about today, which is referenced throughout the planning board resolution. Obviously, it becomes a landlocked parcel.
But it wasn't part of the subdivision.
It was not. But it was mentioned in the planning board resolution more than once, and also in the required covenants and common driveway easements filed against the other properties and the subdivision itself. So that's really the nature of the application, just to correct, I think, that the planning board did not specifically have the authorization to do this and referred it to the board.
Yeah, so we're being asked to resolve something that was partially completed but not entirely completed, essentially.
That's
through the
correct.
process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Anthony?
Which lot are we?
So, yeah, so this property is not part of the, I think it's called the Edwards subdivision.
Yes.
It's not done too long ago.
Yes.
It's just to the west of
Is
the
it
property.
this?
That's
Can you turn that microphone?
What's that?
Yes, what you're looking at is,
Where is it on
It's
this?
Kansas.
that's
it's
the
the big
subject
one.
property.
It's Kansas? Okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
So,
Yeah.
when the applicant came in to do the subdivision, the adjacent subdivision, at that time, the planning board created access to this property. They acknowledged that this was a landlocked parcel, and as part of the adjacent subdivision, we did create access to this property. Now, is the question then, so now they're before the zoning board, right, because it's landlocked. Because this was an out parcel, this was a cluster subdivision, but this property wasn't created as part of this subdivision, so the planning board didn't have the ability to grant any of the necessary relief that we would normally do as part of a cluster subdivision. So it is true, we did half the work. We made sure that we created access that was never created years ago,
Right.
but we couldn't actually eliminate the need to go to the ZBA.
And that's the easement,
That's the easement, yeah.
25-foot access.
25-foot access.
Although it's a little
And then it's a
confusing.
trail.
The trail easement at one point, it says.
It's vehicular access from the road. The trail easement portion is to allow for pedestrians to go through there for a trail connection.
Okay.
But it doesn't affect or impact the ability that vehicular access
Okay.
was created, yep.
Yeah.
So they go
So
through
this
here.
is, it's 20 feet at the road,
Yeah,
Correct.
and then it widens out to 25.
25
Yes.
towards the
Yeah,
back there.
okay,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
So what you're saying is that you recognized it was landlocked, you made provision for it, but it didn't go to the zoning board for,
Yeah, when we saw that it was a landlocked parcel, as part of the subdivision that we reviewed, the adjacent subdivision, we saw the opportunity to get access to this property.
Yeah.
So that's what the planning board,
yeah.
and it's in the covenants, and the easements were
Okay.
filed, so.
Wow, wow.
It's pretty clear.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
So
up
we're-
there
That was Jackie
today.
Fenlon this time and not me, so.
Oh,
just
okay.
let you know.
There you go.
Was it landlocked prior to the subdivision?
Correct.
Yes.
We're fixing that problem. Yeah.
So Michael, you were up there?
Well, yes and no.
Oh.
Oh, wait.
And the
Correct.
reason I say that is
Correct.
because on the prior filed map,
Yeah.
it shows it had access from Middle Line Highway, because there's a paper road, and I'll show it to you on the survey.
This one, yeah. This here,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the trail.
That's it.
this is the one,
Yeah, it's the same thing.
yeah.
So on this map, and of course, this neighbor can now file for the road abandonment, But you can see, this land is donated, this was part of the owned property by these people who owned this, but held it a little bit separately. But there could have been access from here.
No, but there's still no road frontage. It's landlocked,
There's a 40-foot road frontage on Middle Line,
but it,
right there. That's what this was reserved for. This is a paper road.
but this is the lot here.
Right, but they were the same owners. They could have used this to get access to this.
I'm not doubting access, but there was
Okay.
never road frontage, it's landlocked.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean
I'm
landlocked in
sorry.
terms of road frontage,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
not in terms
Yep.
of access.
You're right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So, you know, we're fixing something that needs to be fixed, I think, basically.
I think that's it in a nutshell.
Well, I don't mean to oversimplify things, but. yeah.
But it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just otherwise it'd be unuseful.
Exactly. Okay. All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Is there anyone from the public who's in the boardroom this evening who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Edwards 4 LLC?
Adam
Yes.
Mucko has something to say.
You asked the
Oh, okay.
question if there was any other comments.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
And before I could comment, you proceeded. No, I just was
Gotta
up
be
there
quick,
today.
quick.
I know.
Quick.
You gotta be fast. I was up there today, and it's a very recessed piece of property, right? I got through there with my Jeep, and I didn't know if I was gonna get out alive. But it's up at the end, and it's already been dug out, it's been disturbed already, right?
Well, I think just by virtue of the common driveway, as far as the lot itself, I don't think they're doing any work on the, in that particular lot yet.
Well, no, they're not doing any work now, but
Right.
it is a big
Undulating.
kind of empty,
Yes.
disturbed lot, so.
Yes, correct,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, I wanted to make sure I was in the right place, but
I'm glad you got out.
I see that by the map now, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so I was going to say, ask if anyone was waiting to be heard in connection with this application. Again, the application of Edwards 4 LLC for property located at 2071 Deerfield Road, also known as 297 Middle Line Highway in Noyak. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application? No hands, okay.
Excuse me.
If not, Mike, it is yours.
Sure, okay, we'll close this public hearing. We're not waiting for any other documents, is that right? And we'll keep it open for written submissions through May 5th with a decision on May 18th.
And just before we close, I'd just like to say that this board has granted the same or similar relief in the past to
Yeah.
landlocked parcels,
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely.
just for the record.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Second.
Thank you, board.
Okay, thank you.
Item
Great
five-
evening.
All right, that's it.
Item 5 on the agenda
Oh,
is...
we got to do the vote first. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Item 5 on the agenda, Anthony D. Philippus, 21 Sim Street, North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-99-1-31.3. Applicant requests a determination that the subject parcel, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-99-1-31.3, is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels and thus entitled to relief pursuant to 331-115D and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. Unless you're an attorney, you're set to swear you in.
Yep. Shannon McCaffrey, Dewey's Planning,
Okay, and your address?
265 Accabonac Road, East Hampton, New York, 11937.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, then tell us about the application.
Yes. So we're here this evening requesting a single and separate determination for 21 Sim Street. This property was held in common ownership with 564 Majors Path from 1942 to January 16, 1997 by June Halsey. 564 Majors Path is the property to the north and was created during a 1989 minor subdivision for June T. Halsey. The lot at the time was vacant. This subdivision included a covenant that restricted further subdivision and no overhead utilities for the property. 21 Sim Street was not involved in this subdivision, and the aerials dating back to 1930 do not show that 21 Sim Street ever utilized the property to the north. 564 Majors Path has since been developed as a single-family residence, and so we kindly request the single and separate determination.
Okay. Is there, it looks like, I'm looking at the survey, there's an existing dwelling on this parcel?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And I'm presuming that dwelling got a CO?
It does have a CO.
Okay.
I think the last updated CO.
Okay.
We had a mortgage at one time, too.
I would imagine there might have been a mortgage on it, maybe?
Yeah, not until, I have a copy of the mortgage.
Not until later on. It would-
Yeah,
we'd
never
only-
during the common
that
ownership.
ownership period. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
And
So maybe you need this determination to get relief in terms of setbacks.
Exactly.
Okay, okay, all right. So I saw the common ownership period in the single and separate abstract. So I just want to ask just a few other questions. This is involved case law. This is a different kind of an application than a variance application that we usually see. So I just want to make sure this parcel and the parcels to the north are separate tax map numbers?
They are.
Okay, separate deeds?
They are.
Was there a period of time when they had common deeds at all?
No, not that we could find at the county clerk.
Okay. And you mentioned that parcels to the north is improved, has a CO for a residence?
Yes, it does.
Did we get a copy of that CO?
I do not think that we submitted that.
Okay, if you could submit that, that probably would only bolster the fact that these two different parcels each were improved with residences. And the only other thing I want to ask is whether there was anything that was done on either parcel that benefited the other, that is like an accessory structure on one that benefited the other during that period of common ownership.
No, during the common ownership, it was a vacant land to the north.
Yeah, and I know you submitted a bunch of aerial photographs. Okay, to establish the history.
Yeah, there wasn't too much evidence, being that there was no mortgages at the time during the common ownership, and so
Yeah.
we really relied on the aerials.
Right, okay. Yeah. We only ask about the mortgages because if there was a mortgage during that period,
Exactly.
that would end the analysis. But mainly as long as there was no intent to merge. That's, and by such as using parcels in conjunction with one another or doing something else that would be, could be interpreted as an intent to merge. Even if there was what is a long period of common ownership here, it does not mean there was a legal merger. So, but in any case, only other question I had is whether you've heard from any of the neighbors?
I have not.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Marjorie?
Any, yes, comments. So we did get comments.
I'm the neighbor there.
Okay.
Spot 64.
Okay, give us just a minute, okay? We'll be with you in just a minute. So there were comments from the building department, so let me get to those. Okay. Here's what we got. I'm not sure whether you saw this already?
Yes.
You did, okay.
We submitted an updated survey since receiving those comments.
Okay, very good. And so they mentioned, they asked that the survey indicate hot tub location. They mentioned the hot tub being on a non-conforming setback, correct tax map number on the parcel. The hot tub shall be relocated to conform to the required setbacks for accessory structures in accordance with certificate number C220225. If the board finds the subject property to be single and separate, the applicant would be entitled to reduce side and rear yard accessory structure setbacks and therefore would only need to apply for a building permit to legalize the existing location of the hot tub. And all fences located on the right-of-way shall be removed or relocated to conforming setbacks.
So we'll take care of all that with the building department.
Okay.
The hot tub location kind of depends on whether if we get the relief or not, because if the relief
Yeah.
is granted, we just have to legalize.
Yeah, basically, they just want to make
Yeah.
sure that after we
It's
make our
not-
determination that everything is where it's supposed to be in terms of what zoning requires. Okay. All right, I know there's a gentleman who would like to be heard. If you can either have a seat or go to the podium, whatever you prefer. And I just have to swear you in.
Sit, I'm tired, had a long day.
Okay.
It's 4 this morning.
Wow, okay, no problem.
Working all day, you know.
All right, so I just have to swear you in. If you can state your name and
David
address.
Wisniewski, 564 Majors Path, Southampton, New York.
Okay, and do you
I
swear
to tell the truth,
the whole truth, and nothing but the
nothing
truth?
but
You do.
You're gonna
Be
need to
alive.
spell.
Okay.
Praise the Lord.
Okay, hold on. You're gonna need to spell your name for
Yeah,
Candace.
we need you to spell your name.
LYSOG
SOG
OR
OR.
SKI.
Okay, the first name again?
David.
David. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so if you can give us your comments.
Yeah, this would be hugely detrimental to my property. They party constantly, it's like a summer rental. They run blowers on Easter morning. It's
Okay.
just total a rental place. You know?
Okay, well, we're making a determination on single separate status on a parcel that already has a house on it.
Right. Well, that's a substandard lot. It's already zoning.
Okay, So they're looking to get this relief solely, I think, related to setbacks for, for structures on the property.
Existing, not,
Well, it could be existing or.
I don't know why houses built,
Well, and we have to go through a legal analysis
There's
as, bear with me here, okay? This is not a variance application like the other ones that you heard tonight, okay? This is different. This is a single and separate determination where we are bound to follow case law. Case law says that unless there was an intent to merge two parcels that had a period of common ownership and that were, at least one of them was undersized, then there is no legal merger of the lots as a matter of law. So if the only thing that would be helpful to us in terms of our determination would be if you had information that there was an intent to merge this lot on the parcel to the north. So a history of the property where there was, I don't know, a swimming pool on one of the properties that benefited an improved property next door, or some other documentation showing that there was an intent of this property owner and the property owner to the north, which for a certain period of time was the same person, to merge them. That's the analysis.
how can you merge them if somebody else owns it? If it's owned by another party?
What happens is, if there is common ownership of two lots.
Well, Mrs. Halsey owned it, and she made a covenant, and it's totally disrespectful to break a covenant that
Okay.
somebody like that made,
Sir,
originated our town.
Sir, we have to follow the law, okay? We have to follow the law on this, okay? And the law gives us certain things that we're required to do, okay? And I'm telling you what we would need in order to be able to determine that the lots merged, okay? We would have to have
I don't
proof.
comprehend.
It's very
You're losing
unlikely.
me.
It's very
elusive.
very unlikely. The only time that this board has ever
This
really
is
seen the
ludicrous.
two lots merged is when there was, like Adam's saying, when there was a history when, one had a house and the other one had a pool, and then, like you said, then
yeah.
two owners would come in and they'd be like, you can't merge these lots, but
One would buy the other out or
it's
something.
it's very unlikely. It almost never
Well, she
happens.
established a covenant back in 1989,
Yeah,
she
and
did
since
not
you're
want-
the owner of that lot, honestly, your testimony is like they did not merge.
It would be terrible.
Even though you don't want
I
to
bought the property, and
develop.
I keep it because it's a preserve there, a parkland.
Yeah.
David,
what is your address again?
564 Majors Path.
Got it.
Yeah.
So do you own the property to the north?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
3 acres,
Yeah.
and I built a house
Okay.
and I keep.
So
the rest-
So you don't want this property to be
so you-
merged?
you-
Not at all.
so-
There you go. Thank you.
I saw a prairie dog today for the first
Okay.
time. Up
Oh.
on my back lot.
So you're,
Turkeys,
so you're supportive of the request for a single and separate determination?
What is the single and separate determination?
That your property is separate from the
Yeah,
property
I
at
know your
issue?
structure's built, because there's a pool filter 6 foot off my property. I hear it buzzing. There's lights.
But other than that,
It's
your
so
property is
annoying.
distinct from the
People-
property to the south, correct?
Pardon?
Your property is distinct and owned by you, separate from the
Absolutely.
people who own the property
Without a
to the
doubt. I own
south,
it
correct?
free and clear.
Okay, there we go.
And Shannon will relay your
We're
concerns
talking-
about the property maintenance
Yeah.
notwithstanding.
I will definitely.
Yes.
All right.
Like my
So,
privacy.
Okay. Well, I think this actually benefits your lot as much as it benefits the applicant's lot, to get this cleared out, actually.
Absolutely.
It does, because otherwise.
What's your proposal? You want to build a house there in the back?
Oh, no,
An
we
eighth
just-
of an
Nothing
acre?
right now.
Come on.
There's no proposal as of now, it's just to note that this property was always held in single and separate ownership.
Just to define that.
Define that,
Exactly.
and
And
you
I'm
have the same
proposing
issue.
to
I'm
do
not an
anything
attorney,
else.
I'm not a land guy.
But you could have the same issue
Landscape.
with your lot. This issue could come up if you decided to build, I don't know, renovate your property. It could be that the building department downstairs would say, your lot isn't single and separate. But with this, it will be
both
resolved.
single and
This issue will be resolved. So you benefit from this just as much as the applicant does.
Yeah, there's no
She's not
encroachment.
here to ask for a variance, like, setbacks
I
and
thought
stuff
you
like
they were
that.
intending to
Yeah,
put a
no.
structure
No.
up there.
There's no
No.
plan to
It's
build
not-
anything.
Right.
Pool.
It's not,
No.
it's got nothing to do with
All
that
right.
right now.
If that
Just single
happens, you will be notified.
If she has,
Yeah,
she'll
that's
come back.
Right,
totally outrageous.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Besides that
yeah.
lot there.
And you would have an opportunity to
Be heard again.
voice your opinion with regard to any plan that would be proposed in the future.
Right.
Well, providing there's not gonna be any kind of structure back there, any more pool filters or pools and wild
Okay.
parties.
Nope, it'll have to
People in
meet
the middle of the
zoning
night
code.
with lights, strobe lights.
It'll have to meet all
Yeah.
zoning requirements.
Correct. Or the applicant, or the.
Always on
We'll be
Easter
back here.
morning.
Yeah, we'd have to come back for
Always on
variance
Easter
relief
morning.
about a
That's
specific
horrible.
proposal.
Yeah.
Right, right.
No, I will definitely, acknowledge, I'll let him know.
These people don't even live there. They, I don't know, they rent it for weekends or something. They must.
I don't totally
Okay.
know.
And
It's
you
not the
guys can
issue
have a
here. We can
conversation
talk
with that,
about
about that outside. But in any case, I want to
Anybody
ask,
else here
is
wants to
there
speak?
anyone else from the public who would like to be heard in connection with the application of the Philippus, who's in the audience? Okay, is there anyone, and this is for property located at 21 Sim Street in North Sea. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with the application of, the same application for 21 Sim Street?
No hands.
No hands, okay.
Seeing and hearing no one, motion to close written submissions by May 5th with a determination on 5/18.
Second.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So you
Mr.
guys,
Mis-
just to clarify,
yes.
you just want me to submit the copy of his CO?
Yes,
Yes.
if you could, that would be
Yes,
great.
I will get that to you guys.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Daly. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Tuthill first. Mr. Daly. People walking around, I'm getting confused. Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good rest of your
Have a
night.
great evening.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good night.
Okay, on the holdover applications, we have number 6, which is North Phillips Property LLC. Susan Bristow, applicant. 91 North Phillips Avenue, in Spionk, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-330-3-86.
Okay, come on up. Whoever would like to go first, which usually is the applicant. Yep.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So we were asked to brief the issue of the board's jurisdiction over this application.
Yep.
Which we did.
Mhm.
And we were asked to come back to, I think you were very clear about no more than 10 minutes of oral argument on the jurisdictional issue only tonight.
Yep.
So that's what I'm here for.
Okay.
And really my client's position, obviously I am Nika Strunk. I represent Susan Bristow, the applicant here. Our position is set out really completely in our memorandum that we submitted. The first point that I made in my brief was that the owner of the property, which is 91 North Phillips Avenue LLC, has previously argued to the Suffolk County Supreme Court in a case that is now on hold because of this board's process, that the email and Murphy letter constitute, quote, determinations, and that is the property owner's own attorney's words. Frank Eisler wrote that in his papers that he submitted to the Supreme Court. And in fact, they made a motion for summary judgment that based on these, quote, determinations, the matter should be dismissed. So my first point was that it's really improper for any party to argue one thing to one board or tribunal or agency and another entirely to this board. The applicant's, or the property owner's attorney, I believe, stated at the last hearing that this was double hearsay, these determinations. But that is not what the property owner said to the Supreme Court. And moreover, there was a determination, decision made by the Supreme Court, Justice Riley, actually on the very afternoon that we submitted our papers, in which the court stated, within 30 days of the issuance of these determinations, the court's words, by the Code Compliance Administrator Murphy, Plaintiff Bristow filed an appeal to the Town of Southampton Zoning Board of Appeals challenging Murphy's determination, quote, the exact determination that is the basis for defendant's pending motion for summary judgment. And on this basis, the court held that it's absolutely appropriate for this board, which has primary jurisdiction over the town code, to decide to hear our appeal from this determination. I think that is absolutely proper, and that's what we're asking the board to do.
Well,
Yes.
I'm going to jump in. What would you
Please.
say to the fact that judicial estoppel doesn't apply when there hasn't been a final determination on the argument made by the litigant in the previous litigation?
Okay, I understand that, and I'm familiar with
And there's copious
that.
case law to that
Yes,
effect.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I think that you will find, looking at those cases and at the law of judicial estoppel in general, that whether or not the matter has proceeded to a final adjudication, which obviously it has not in the Supreme Court, and I acknowledge that, it is still improper for a litigant to say one thing to a judge and another thing to this board. It's improper. It's wrong. It should not be
But
countenanced.
improper and barring are two very different
Okay,
things.
well, I agree with that.
Correct.
I agree with
Right.
that. And this board could determine that it's not barred, but still, the justification behind the law of judicial estoppel is that it's a matter of respect for this board and for the Supreme Court. A litigant should not be allowed to play fast and loose with the facts, which is what this litigant has done here. And they're really stringing this board along by saying to the court one thing and to this board another. So, whatever suits them at whatever time is basically what we're dealing with here. Now, if you don't want to make a determination that this is technical judicial estoppel, I understand. It's still wrong. And it should, I'm saying that you should take that very seriously. We have sworn affirmations by the Property Owners Council that say exactly the opposite of what Mr. Gilmartin said at the last hearing. So moving on, Town Law 267A sub 4 is very clear. The language is not obscure. It says, hearing appeals, unless otherwise provided by local law or ordinance, the jurisdiction of the Board of Appeals shall be appellate only and shall be limited to hearing and deciding appeals from and reviewing any order, requirement, decision, interpretation, or determination made by the administrative official charged with the enforcement of any ordinance or local law adopted pursuant to this article. Brian Murphy is the administrative official charged with enforcement of the town zoning code. Now, we have cases that hold that a letter from the code enforcement officer is regularly considered a determination or interpretation subject to appeal to the ZBA. Those are set out in our brief. The cases cited by the property owner are really a totally different type of case. They're dealing with situations in which mandamus was sought, which is, as you may know, it's an appeal to the court to force an agency or officer of a municipality to perform some act. That's not what we have here. Those cases are simply not applicable. The property owner also argued that the determination had not been filed as required by Town Law Section 267A sub 5. And that reads, each order, requirement, decision, interpretation, or determination of the administrative official charged with the enforcement of the zoning law or ordinance shall be filed in the office of such administrative official within 5 business days from the day it is rendered and shall be a public record. Alternately, the town board may by resolution require that such filings instead be made in the town clerk's office. Now, I have not found any provision of the code of the town of Southampton requiring that a determination such as Ryan Murphy's be filed in the town clerk's office. However, we do have a certified copy of the Murphy letter, which was submitted by the property owner to the court, in which Ryan Murphy certified that he had compared the copy and found it to be a true and accurate copy of the original records as maintained in the Division of Public Safety and Emergency Management for the town of Southampton. So I don't know how anyone could determine that this letter was not filed.
But
as
isn't the
required.
email what really is the crux of your argument? Isn't the email the determination
Not exclusively,
that you're
no.
concerned with?
No, because the letter itself is also, key, and I think you could find that there was properly,
But the letter itself does not state, like the email does, that the piece of property is pre-existing non-conforming permissible use. The letter, from my reading of it, states that any issues that were raised had been resolved. But it's
Yes.
the email, in fact,
well,
that says the thing you really need it to say.
okay, I'm going to, I hear you. I'm going to quote from the property owner's brief. Just one second.
Thanks.
The property owner's brief says, "The use of auto repair was approved by the town in 1965, and Murphy simply reiterates what was already approved by the town." I don't think that there can be any dispute that the underlying, that the fact that underlies Ryan Murphy's letter is that the property does have a certificate of occupancy for an auto repair shop. So for that reason, that is the basis for his determination that the property was in compliance with zoning. And, I don't think you need the email to be able to understand the letter and the fact that it was not properly issued and it is incorrect.
But to get back to the jurisdictional argument, I mean, one thing that stuck out to me would be the interplay between, which I think is an issue that the respondents' briefing brought up, which was the interplay between Town Law 267A4, which seems to be a sweeping grant of jurisdiction under New York state law, in comparison to the Town of Southampton zoning code 330-165, which appears to limit those appellate powers. And I'm just wondering what your response to that argumentation would be, that the board is limited in the three ways identified in 330-165.
Where is 331, is that section of the town code cited in the brief?
Yes, it's page 2.
Page 2.
Town law trumps anything in the town code that's inconsistent. Town law does. New York State town code.
Okay.
But, I'm sorry, can you clarify that for me? Because it says state town law
Correct.
is primary.
Yes,
correct? Okay.
yes.
But it does say unless otherwise provided by town law,
Town law.
local town law. Unless otherwise provided by local law or ordinance. In the state, if you look at page 5, when it refers to 227A, there is a,
Yeah, the town code cannot take away the ZBA's appellate jurisdiction. I mean, I don't.
Under the state
No.
okay.
legislative scheme.
Even,
Okay.
just to go off for a second, like, even our town code hasn't necessarily been updated. I think it still has language in it about like hardships and things like that. Like, New York State town law tells the ZBA what the standards are, what their jurisdiction is. And I think I think the otherwise provided by law might be, if the town code gives the ZBA special authority to issue like special exception standards. The section of the town code that allows the ZBA to repurpose landmark structures and add uses,
Right.
like, I think that's
Or
supplemental.
coastal erosion.
Oh, okay.
We
Okay.
have a different
Thank
test
you
for
for that
that.
clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I have the same document that you're looking at, because I don't see a citation to that. I mean, I just want to make sure, I think we've moved on from the point, but I don't see I don't have a bound copy.
It's the initial memorandum.
Right, I'll have to check later. I don't
Is
have, I don't have
Does that
any-
say statement by property owner?
Yes.
Okay, so no, we have
If there's-
we have something else. We have
Oh.
a memorandum of law in opposition
I did not receive
to the
a copy of that.
application.
I did not receive a single, I did not receive that. I did not receive that. I emailed my brief to Mr. Gilmartin. I did not receive a brief from him.
We filed it, we filed it.
Okay, we can't get you on tape if you're, you want to go up to a microphone. Okay, but I heard you. Okay, so,
I think I should have received a copy of that.
okay, all right. Okay.
Let's make a note of what your answer's gonna be to that when you get up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's fair that Mr. Gilmartin should have had 2 weeks to prepare a response to my brief, and I haven't been even seen his
That's
brief.
simply not what happened. This board set a date for us to put a memorandum in, and we put our memorandum in on that date. It's been available all week, or the 2 weeks since we submitted it. It was voidable.
So you didn't send a copy to,
What is your name, ma'am?
Nika Strunk.
I assume Ms. Strunk is being honest. I didn't send it out. It was my office that did it. I didn't even send it out in Florida at the time. But
Okay.
I emailed, of course, Mr. Gilmartin simultaneously with my filing.
Let's move on.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Kumar?
At this point, yeah,
Do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I think I should have an opportunity to respond.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
It
If the.
was both to submit briefs, not to replies to briefs.
No, I understand that, but it's really unfair. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
good evening, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Traurig, for the property owner, North Phillips Properties. We appeared here actually a month ago, and one of the first statements out of the applicant's mouth, applicant's attorney's mouth, was, "We would ask you to do what code enforcement has not." Direct quote, right? This is an enforcement issue. It's not a zoning board issue. I guess I'd start with, let's take a look at the letter let's take a look at the letter. And I'll give you a lot of room up here. The letter states, first sentence, "Please allow this letter to serve as verification that the property located at 91 North Phillips Avenue, Spionk, Remsenburg, has taken action to remedy certain conditions in violation to the satisfaction of the Department of Public Safety." It's a verification of an inspection. That doesn't raise to the level of a determination that's reviewable by you. Follow this theory out that you're being asked to follow. How would you take that letter and determine whether Ryan Murphy was correct on April 4th, 2022, when he went out and did an inspection, found that the previous violations, that the alleged violations, let me say, are true and exist at the time? It's impossible for this board to do that. How can you review it? I'd ask members Tuttle and Grossman, have you ever seen a case like this? These neighbor cases involve COs. They involve building permits. They involve structures. This was an inspection, right? We've given you case law, and the applicant would like you to disregard it. But I think it's important to look deeper than where was this action. The decisions that we quote come out of Supreme Court cases. This case is in Supreme Court. And actually the fight in Supreme Court, as far as I know, is a summary judgment motion made by the counsel for the property owner in Supreme Court, which is not me, it's Frank Eisler. And Mr. Eisler took those documents to prove that there were no existing violations at the time on the property. I have a divergence of opinion with Mr. Eisler on whether you have jurisdiction on that. And the argument to me is somewhat preposterous that because I have a divergent opinion than Mr. Eisler, you have jurisdiction. You either have jurisdiction or you don't. Whatever happens in Supreme Court in that argument really has no bearing on this board. You can't take jurisdiction because Mr. Eisler said so in his papers in Supreme Court.
But what would have happened if the motion for summary judgment was decided in your client's favor on the grounds that there was a determination made in the by the building department? And that would have left the petitioner here high and dry.
No, they could appeal. They could appeal that to the appellate division. They still have
Absolutely.
a remedy.
What happens to judicial economy? What happens to a waste of resources? That all goes out the window.
Well, the waste of resources is the application.
I really don't
here.
think we can play so fast and loose. I have to say that I don't find the argument, because you've heard what I think of judicial estoppel, I don't really find the argument determinative here with regard to different ways of arguing the same thing in two different ways, but I do find it somewhat disconcerting.
Well, I would say be concerted, but your job here is determine whether you have jurisdiction or not the divergence of opinion between me and Mr.
Right, but you're
Isaac.
downplaying it in your argument. So maybe we should move on.
How am I downplaying?
I would move on, I think.
All right, so getting back to where I was, when we look at the case law, on the point of whether code enforcement has the ability to enforce the code and not this board. The court says in Church of the Chosen against the city of Elmira, with respect to the alleged code violations by petitioner's neighbor, the decision to enforce a municipal code rests in the discretion of public officials charged with its enforcement, and relief in the nature of mandamus is simply unavailable. So they didn't get what they wanted at the city of Elmira level, so then they went to the court. And the court didn't say, you didn't exhaust your administrative remedies, they said it's not available, right? They didn't tell them to go to the zoning board. That wasn't the outcome. And it's the same language in Dino versus Village of Johnson City. And so far as the amended petition seeks to have the village enforce its local laws and zoning ordinance, it is in essence a request for relief in the nature of mandamus, which does not lie to compel the performance of such discretionary functions, right? So code enforcement makes these decisions, not this board.
So David, is your point that what is the relief if somebody disagrees with the code enforcement decision? What is the,
I suppose they should sue the town.
so you think it would be
Yeah.
to go to the town? As an officer of the town, you would sue the town?
But isn't that what's happening in Supreme right now?
Well,
Isn't that the taxpayer action?
I don't understand the question, Ben.
So what's their
Well,
recourse?
it seems to be that your argument is that there was no code enforcement action. There was a failure to act.
That's
No.
that's the neighbors.
That's the neighbors, not.
His is that
No,
they
but-
acted and they've recognized that the violations have been clarified.
Clear.
Well, that those violations have been clarified, but with regard to whether or not this is, a pre-existing non-conforming use, that your argument is no determination has been made.
And no determination is necessary. There's an existing 1965 CO
Right.
that is well past the time that you could appeal that. And by the way, the town, and I'll show you in a minute with the code enforcement, but the town building department has issued, let's say, 4 or 5 COs since 2014 on the property, which confirms that there was no illegal uses on the property at the time that they were issued.
But, so going back to my point, what is the recourse for somebody who disagrees with the code enforcement decision that the violations have been taken care of?
Well, in a broader sense, as Katie started to mention, this is called a Town Law 268 action, where the applicant went to the town board and said, we want you to bring an action against the property owner, to enforce the code. The town board declined to do that. And so the applicant put themselves in the town's shoes and went to court. And that's where their remedy is. And the remedy, the remedy that they don't like the outcome of the inspections, I'd say sue the town, because they're the ones that made the determination that the property was clear. And lest you think that the first statement that was raised by the applicant and the first thing that they're here to do what code enforcement hasn't done, this is the pile of inspections that this property has gone through. Right?
Yep, just give them all to me.
I need one. I'll
Okay.
give one to Nika.
That's fine, yeah. I mean, you guys really probably don't need to look at all of these anyways.
I don't think we need to see that.
Yeah, give us what you got, and whoever wants it can take it.
This might
Pass it down, I think John wants to see it.
Gonna be a test.
No, there's two, yeah. So one, who's the lead on this? Who's the lead on
The
this?
lead is,
Me.
All right, so Bob, take the, pick.
You take this one.
Here, let me just look at it for
Okay,
a
yes.
second. I'll take one.
Sure. Okay.
So I put on the top,
Resources.
and I've made separate copies for you, one of the inspections that was done last September. And there's something untoward going on here, right? It's really untoward. You see all the inspections, all those inspections are unfounded.
Almost seems like a rascal.
Thank you.
Read the highlighted part of this inspection report.
I already have one. Is it the same one or different? Yeah, it's the same one. Yeah.
So this, if you read the report, is from code enforcement, and code enforcement apparently received a tape from the applicant stating that there was mulching going on the property. So came in the weekend of, I think, September 10th through 11th, and then they went out and inspected September 12th. And it was determined that the complaint that there was current mulching going on was actually from a video that was taken in April of 2021. And if you read and you look at the second page, it says, concludes, the video provided is false and misleading. No violations were issued. And so, at some point, this has to stop, right? Where we put our foot down, there's a summary judgment motion in Supreme Court, so we come running to this board. We talked about the letter, just quickly about the email. That can't be filed, right? That wasn't filed. Our argument about it being filed was with the email, not the letter. We didn't take exception on the letter, it was the email, which isn't filed. There's no evidence this was filed, and it wouldn't be, right? And it's double hearsay when somebody else says what somebody else said. So we have Mr. Murphy saying what Janice Scherer said, right? And then we have the applicant saying what Mr. Murphy said, Mr. Scherer. That's double hearsay, and that's the part of the argument that we were saying was double hearsay. It's at least hearsay, right? So, there's something,
Well, not necessarily. It's after speaking to Janice Scherer, I am able to confirm. So that's not really double hearsay. That's Mr. Murphy saying that.
We'll differ on that, right? But
There's no differing on that.
Well,
It's not double hearsay.
in any event,
So we have how far back does the history of these unfounded complaints go?
2014 is the earliest jurisdiction yet, because that's when
next month.
yeah. So 2014, they started. Right.
I'm sorry, but this is, I don't believe this is
Yeah,
part of the jurisdiction.
Nika, we're not getting you on tape.
I'm just saying for the record, I don't believe that the
This is
evidence
getting,
of this
yeah,
is
this is getting
within
beyond the
scope.
argument of jurisdiction.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the argument about jurisdiction is they're saying that code enforcement didn't do what they're supposed to do. That's proof that they did.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's jurisdictional to me.
Okay, so in my view, we were originally planning on giving each side 10 minutes. I think we've had a little bit longer than that. The only question I have in my mind is whether we want to give a very short period of time for a written submission, particularly because Nika didn't see this submission. And that would be for both sides, to submit something, as a follow-up to what we've heard tonight. And I would suggest we have a short time period on that, but that be done.
Is 5-5 enough to both submit?
Yeah. I'm not sure there's much left to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's more giving an opportunity for her to review your.
It's an expansion on the original memo we made.
But even if that
It's
hadn't
fine.
happened, I would want you both, if you wanted to, submit
It's fine,
something
it's
as a
fine.
follow-up.
I want to make
5-5
sure that
written
whatever
submission.
decision you make is jurisdictionally friendly.
Okay.
5-5 for written submissions.
Yes.
She
writes as both sides are going to be able to submit at the same time.
Only on the jurisdictional issue,
Only on the jurisdictional issue.
not code enforcement, not any of the other stuff.
On the jurisdictional issue alone. Okay, 5-5 and the business. And if you can do us a favor and give each other copies.
Okay.
Okay, we may
I'm
not have
sorry
made
for
that
that
clear last
oversight.
time, that's
Again,
all
I was
right.
away.
We have each other's email?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
5-5.
This isn't our
Five,
first
five.
case.
And then-
5-18 for decision, Katie?
I'm sorry, what?
5-5 and 5-18 for decision?
Or is that too short of a
Too
time
short?
period? Do you need-
That can try 518.
Okay, we'll put
That's
it,
done, I'll
we'll
just
put it
put
for
it on for the
5:18.
next meeting.
When will the
Well,
decision
wait.
actually be made? 'Cause this has been going on for
5:18.
We're scheduling it for 5:18.
So the decision will be made on 5/18?
That's
Yes.
what our goal is, unless we need additional time to complete the decision.
On the jurisdiction.
On the jurisdictional issue alone.
Seconding my second.
Okay, all right. And you made the motion?
I made the motion, yes.
Okay, all right, Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
And Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you all for your comments this evening. Greatly appreciate it, and your submissions.
Okay.
On to decisions, I think.
I believe so.
Okay, I have some decisions. All right.
Good night, Anthony, thank you.
Good evening. Take care, Anthony. All right, I have a decision in the matter of the application of Robert Scheinman for property located Suffolk County Tax Map Number 979-243. This application is for property located at 470 Edge of Woods, must be Edge of Woods Road, Watermill. Applicant requests relief for the placement of a proposed pickleball court within the minimum required side yard for the principal building on a lot that was developed prior to the approval of a cluster subdivision. Because the court is proposed to be located next to an existing tennis court on the adjacent property with a similar setback, and due to the configuration of the lot and the existing improvements on the lot, this board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. I'm going to read the rest of this, but I know there was, we'll have a brief discussion before we vote. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed pickleboard court. Town Code 33076D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and Town Code 33083C, yards, to allow the pickleball court to be located within the required minimum side yard for the principal building, as shown in the survey prepared by Squires, Holden, Weisenbacher, and Smith, last revised May 17, 2022. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired and may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises. Before I do a vote on this, Susan, I know you wanted to say a few things.
I did want to say a couple of things. I'm going to vote no because I kind of feel like the court should be sunken. This isn't a variation, a variance, and it's in a front yard and.
To the side yard.
A side yard. And, they raised the issue of the cost being $60,000 or whatever it is. I mean, this is part of their doing business. I don't know. So I'm going to vote no on that. But there's another reason that I wanted to talk about, and that is that, I think Michael or somebody raised at the last meeting that we need to have like a parameter, like we do with tennis courts, 55, 110. I think we're going to see more and more of these applications for pickleball courts. They're going to be in the front and the side and whatever yards. And I think we need to have a standard that we go by so that we can communicate that to the public and that we live by it. And I would say, maybe we need some a opinions from outside people to tell us what that should be. But I think for the future, we really need to come up with some kind of a standard.
No, I
Agreed.
agree with that, but is there a standard size like tennis courts?
No.
Well, we need to find out.
Well, we've heard lots of stuff about tennis courts. We had all
They're pretty
kinds of
small.
information
Yeah.
that regulation-sized tennis
55,
court.
110.
Yeah, well, no, 60 by 120 is,
120, keep like
and we'd
that,
say,
that's what
fine,
we-
you're not getting regulation size.
Yeah.
So I don't know if pickleball courts, I
Professional,
mean, one could do a
non-professional.
Google search as to what the
But I
typical
think we
size.
need to do
Yeah.
some homework on it, is
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, rather than just each time they come up, it's gonna be a different size, you know, so.
Yeah.
Particularly when we're asked to put them in a yard that they're not supposed to be in.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my point.
Understood. Agreed.
And for us to have consistency as a board
Right.
overall, and how many pickleball court applications have we had? I don't know.
They're gonna start coming.
But they're
coming
gonna
more.
come.
Oh, yeah.
But-
Big time.
Yeah.
And just so the board knows, this was initially, it's dropped in a footnote in the real decision, but this was advertised for a 10-foot setback where 20 is required, but it's actually 10 is conforming. So that relief is eliminated. This is just for the placement and the required minimum side.
Yeah.
Right, right. So, yeah, so they're conforming the setbacks on this
Yeah.
one.
Oh, all right, okay.
Okay, okay, all
Let's
right.
do the decision.
Okay, all right, so,
Second.
okay, second, okay. Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
No.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Okay.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, I have a decision in the matter of the application of James
Point
S.
taken.
Normal Revocable Trust and Dorita H. Normal Revocable Trust. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-358-234. This application is for property located at 112 South Road, West Hampton. Applicants seek variances to construct a second-story addition to an existing detached garage and to legalize an outdoor barbecue and second-story deck built without the benefit of a building permit. While this board does not condone construction done without a permit, it does find that this application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, for a proposed second-story addition to an existing detached garage. Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height, for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 209 cubic feet. 2, to legalize the existing outdoor barbecue located within the minimum required side yard setback. Town Code 33011, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, Town Code 33083C, Yards, and Town Code 33076D, Placement of Accessory Building Structures and Uses in All Districts, for a side yard setback of 4.8 feet where 20 feet is required. And Town Code 33084D, for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 1.35 cubic feet. And to legalize a second-story deck built without the benefit of a building permit located at the rear of the main dwelling. Town Code 33084D, for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 17 cubic feet. These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by David H. Fox, surveyor, last dated January 17, 2023, and the plans and elevations prepared by Salvatore Ianon Jr., dated March 1st, 2023. The grant of the foregoing relief is conditioned upon such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the removal or legalization of the existing outdoor shower and covered patio that do not require variances but were built without a building permit, as well as the 6-foot fence and entry gates, all prior to the issuance of any certificates for the proposed garage.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Abstain.
Mr. Tudhill. Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, I have a determination in the matter of the application of Milk Pail LLC. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 982-226.1. This is an amended decision. This application is to modify a previous decision of this board that granted setback variances to construct a building to be used half for storage and half for living quarters for agricultural labor. The applicant here requested that the previous decision be modified to allow the entirety of the building to be used for living quarters to support her farm operations. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, ZBA decision number 7526 is amended to permit the entire building to be used for living quarters for agricultural labor, as shown in the site plan prepared by Vincent Cordiello of the Rayner Group, P.E., PLLC, last revised October 18, 2022. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired and may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Yes. Aye.
Chair votes aye. Last one I have is a decision on the matter of the application of Robert and Anne Marie Anzalone for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-226-314. This application is for property located at 3 Bittersweet Avenue South, Hampton Bays. Applicants seek variances to construct an attached garage and first and second story addition to an existing dwelling. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height, for a pyramid encroachment to the amount of 447 cubic feet for a proposed garage and portion of the first and second story addition to the dwelling, and Town Code 330-115D2, continuance for a principal minimum side yard setback of 10.3 feet where 15 feet is existing for a proposed attached garage, as shown on the survey prepared by Angelo Joseph Ciceri, last revised April 10, 2023, and the plans and elevations prepared by Nigel Robert Williamson, dated September 2nd, 2022. The grant of the foregoing relief is conditioned upon such other conditions and permits as applicant has already required and may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the removal of the existing outdoor shower that was built without a building permit and the relocation of the shed to a conforming location.
Second.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Burtis.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are closed.